Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo, what up, brothers? It's the director. Chargers fans, Victory Monday. Hope everybody enjoyed their victory briskets. What was this? A relaxing win? I mean, that was great for me. Was it great for you? Smoke them if you got them, man. Chargers don't get a lot of games like that. That is exactly the kind of game I was hoping the Chargers would win versus the Broncos. Not only did we win, but we won the way we were supposed to. Kind of, hoping that that's the way that the Houston Texans game would go down. That puts my mind at ease a lot about this game because the cavalry has arrived. The returning players really did save the day in this game. We needed these guys. Well, we had Guyton, we had Williams, we had Eckler, we had Bosa. This team with a full roster of their superstars is a really, really dangerous team. And you know what? The playoffs are in sight, and I do think other teams are noticing. One final test next week for the Chargers versus the Vegas Raiders. It could not be a bigger game, guys. And in prime time at that. That game was flexed to Sunday night next week. Keep that in mind. It's a big one. So first, we've got to take care of business. Talk about the Chargers' epic win over the Denver Broncos. But first, question in the comments. In the scenario that the Chargers do make the playoffs, that we go through the Raiders next week and we do go to the postseason, who would you rather play in the playoffs? The Chiefs, the Bengals, or the Bills? I ran a whole bunch of scenarios. Those are the most likely teams that we would face in the playoffs. Let me know your answer in the comment section below. Well, with that, guys, let's get into this one. Before we do, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. The Chargers versus Broncos, staying alive post-game report. Super excited about this one, man, because you know what? There was a lot of heavy implications as to what would happen if the Chargers do win this game, and with a little bit of help. You guys need to remember, we needed the Titans to take down the Dolphins. They did their job. We needed the Baltimore Ravens to lose in that game versus the LA Rams. They did their job. You know what happened with that? The Chargers win their game. We are now in the hunt. 7th seed is where the Chargers currently are at. We do hold a playoff spot. We have to defend it now. The Raiders, the threatening Raiders next week. Again, it could not be a bigger game. Must defeat the Vegas in order to make the postseason. And honestly, it's win and get in, right? Because with the Raiders beating the Colts this week too, they have a shot at getting into the postseason. So if we were hoping to go in there and play a defeated, Las Vegas Raiders team, that's not going to happen. Those guys are going to be juiced up and ready to go because they too want to make the postseason, given the tough season that they've had as well. But we're not going to let them do that, are we? We are not going to let them do that. We got this. Now let's get into our stat check real quick, give you guys some numbers on how Chargers performed in this game. Chargers did a good, I would say okay job at holding down Drew Lock. 245 is a lot of yardage, but only the 1 touchdown. Justin Herbert, 237 and 2 touchdowns. That number right there, number 2, very important. We'll get into that in just a second. Los Angeles, as far as rushing, Austin Eckler, 17 for 58. Not bad. Could be a little bit better. But Justin Jackson, I did want to highlight this pairing right here. Justin Jackson in the final few weeks of this season is really making a case to be the Chargers running back 2 in 2022. This postseason is going to be a very difficult decision whether or not to keep Justin Jackson, go after a guy that's maybe a little bit bigger, or declare Justin Jackson our running back 2. I don't know. I think he's been doing a fantastic job. He's looked really, really spry and effective when on the field. Let me know in the comment section below. Would you guys rather keep Justin Jackson as our RB2 going into next season, or maybe draft or sign a different guy that maybe fits the better criteria of a bruiser to complement Austin Eckler? But Jackson's been doing fantastic, man. Another great number to take a look at right here is 83 yards total on the ground for the Denver Broncos this Sunday. Hey, that was probably their game plan coming in, right? Like, we got to run the ball. This Chargers team's got a tough secondary. They've been really bad versus the run. You know what? The Chargers just proved that this week with only 83 yards on the ground. We'll go into more detail about that in a second. Receiving, Justin Herbert was fantastic spreading the ball around, right? We had Williams, Eckler, Allen, McKitty getting in there a couple of times too. The Chargers were down on Donald Parham. I think Jared Cook was on the COVID list. McKitty got in there, made some big plays. Of course, Jackson, Palmer, Guy, and Anderson also contributing there as well. 246 through the air for the Denver Broncos versus a Drew Lock. Does worry me a little bit though, because of course next week we're playing Derek Carr, who I do think is better than Drew Lock if we're being honest. And the Chargers secondary, I don't know, maybe a lot of garbage time yardage too. We have to take a look at that. A lot of desperation plays. Might not see as many of those versus the Raiders, but still a lot of yardage given up to the tight end, a lot of yardage given up to their wide receiver one. So got to keep an eye on that. We did get a fumble recovery via special teams and Keemon Hall. We'll talk about that in a second. And as well as the defense. The defense looked fantastic. A couple guys I do want to highlight. Kaiser White has had one of the best seasons as far as, you know, a Charger defender in a long time. I think the most tackles in franchises, or the most in a long time, maybe even the most in franchise history. The guy's been one of the best Chargers on the squad. Definitely the best and most improved Charger on the squad this season. Nasir Adderley, my goodness, dudes. A lot of us, I would even say, including myself at times, we're kind of ready to give up on Nas, man. This dude has absolutely exploded onto the scene this season. So a lot of great defensive performances by the Chargers. Again, we'll get into that as we get into our recharged recap. How did the Chargers come away with such a dominant victory? Again, 13-34 Chargers. And what does this mean going into our game versus Vegas, which has heavy, heavy playoff implications? Well, first off, and I titled all of these with my fun puns. You guys know how I do. On your left, what do we see on the left of Justin Herbert in this photo? That's a Mike Williams. The Chargers superstars returning to this game. We saw so many 20-plus Chargers players on the COVID list last week. Them returning in this game felt like the Avengers returning in Endgame. Did not. It was so freaking epic seeing Mike Williams, Bosa, Derwin, Eckler, even Davis coming back and being rejuvenated, making a big impact on this game. And again, like I said at the top of the video, this really put my mind at ease regarding our game versus Houston. It is tough to predict what's going to happen when half your football team is not playing, right? It's tough to predict what will happen when the guys that have built what's working on your squad are not there, are absent. And with the Chargers superstars returning in this game and really showing how vital they are to this squad, it's given me a new perspective on, you know, how important every single one of these pieces are, including Mike Williams. You guys know I've been asking the question, you know, what do you think? You want to keep Mike Williams? You want to go after Devontae Adams? What is your thoughts on Mike Williams next season? And honestly, after this game this week and kind of taking a broader look at the season as a whole, I'm all about keeping Mike Williams. My one caveat is that we need to make sure the money makes sense. Going on what it's the option, the player option is going to be very, very expensive. I'm actually of the opinion that I would like to keep Mike Williams on a 3-year extension. That would probably keep his cap hit somewhere around $16 million. And if we're lucky, I've heard maybe as low as $13 million. That would be crazy. That would be absolutely crazy, but you never know. The Chargers got the money right now to do so as well. Next up, 2 steps ahead of the game. Look at these Chargers, so pensive, so prepared. The Chargers' early scoring helped cap the run game a lot, and that's kind of what I'm coming down to with this. The Chargers were able to grab a lead very early in this game in order to, I would say, manipulate what the Broncos were able to do offensively. Because if you're the Broncos, you're coming into this game like, Chargers, they got Derwin, you know, they got ASJ, they got Bosa, they got some good secondary pieces as well. What do we want to do? We probably need to run, right? Probably need to run a lot. They got Javonte Williams, who's fantastic. They got Melvin Gordon, who's fantastic. The only issue is it's really hard to utilize those superstar players on their running back roster when they're, you know, behind a couple of scores. And what the Chargers did for themselves by getting an early 2-score lead was limit what they could do on the ground and really force the Broncos to lean on Drew Lock. And that's really what we were hoping would happen in this game. You know, some people, you know, in that situation on 4th and goal, we've seen, you know, Brandon Staley go for it a lot of the times in those situations. But I think, you know, already being up 7, having the ability to go up 2 scores with the field goal, I think that was the right move in my opinion, because again, it kind of started forcing the Broncos to move a certain direction, and then later on, a couple of drives later, the Chargers go up 17-0. That's exactly what the Chargers needed to do in order to put themselves in the best possible situation in order to stop that run a little bit. So bravo, 2 steps ahead. This team was absolutely on fire. Bravo to the defense for holding them to 0 points while the Chargers grabbed a 3-point lead or a 3-score lead. That's the way to do it versus the Broncos. Speaking of which, who helped us get that lead? Justin Herbert. this title. I think the sequence called Justin Credible Herbert. Justin Credible Herbert. If I forget who you were in the live stream that brought that up, that's a great nickname. I love it. Justin Herbert, or Justin Credible Herbert. Now, Herbert played a fantastic game despite the drops. If I had to give some criticism to some Chargers players in this game, is yeah, we saw a lot of drops. But you know what he also did in this game? A lot of us were following along. You know, everybody knew the narrative. With 2 touchdowns, Justin Herbert would break Phillip Rivers' franchise touchdown record, and he did so. And he did so in the most Justin Herbert way you can do it, with an H-bomb to Mike Williams. We just got done talking about Mike Williams. Do we keep him? Do we grab somebody else? You know, with that catch, not only did Herbert beat Rivers' record, but Mike Williams went over 1,000 for the season, just for the second time in his career. That's a big accomplishment. I think with that touchdown, that puts Mike Williams at 8 touchdowns on the season. Those are fantastic numbers for your wide receiver, too. Well above a lot of other teams' wide receiver, too, in the league. So, bravo to Mike Williams. Justin Herbert played fantastic, broke the record. He's only been in the league 2 seasons, people. We talked about this. Phillip Rivers is one of the greatest Chargers that will ever play the game. He set the bar pretty high. In 2 seasons, Justin Herbert walks in here and breaks one of the hardest records to beat, held by Phillip Rivers. How insane is that? And again, this is no knock on Rivers. He will never be, not one of the best Chargers in history, to me at least. But it just shows how good Justin Herbert is. He did so without the extra game. A lot of people were saying that, like, oh, if he breaks it in game, 17, that's not going to be great. But no, he broke it in the same amount of time that Phillip Rivers did. And that's just absolutely one of the best accomplishments you can make as a young quarterback in this league. Bravo to Justin Herbert. Absolutely our quarterback, of the future, the franchise guy, the face of this team. Next up, the receivers deliver. You guys remember what I was talking about? I was like, I think the wide receivers need to come out here and put on a show. Help the Chargers fans rejuvenate from the, bummer loss versus Houston. And that's exactly what Keenan Allen and Mike Williams did. They looked as great as ever. One of the best duos in the NFL. I saw something about T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, being the 1K wide receivers, the only ones in the league. Nah, man, you forgot the Chargers with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams both putting up 1,000 yards on the season. It's absolutely insane. Austin Eckler's got something like 1,400 total yards on the season. This Chargers offense is lethal. And again, it comes down to the perfect personnel. We do need to fix some stuff, but my God, the pieces that we do have are so good. These wide receivers did not just look great, in game, some big plays, but they were converting on 3rd downs. They scored a touchdown each. A big thing I want to make sure that Chargers fans don't ignore as well is Austin Eckler, who I think deserves a lot of praise in his receiving efforts. It's really tough to find a running back with that kind of receiving skill in the NFL. There's a couple of them, and they're elite. You got Alvin Kamara, who's fantastic, and Christian McCaffrey, who, if he wasn't injured so often, would probably be the best running back in the league. Those guys make a lot of big plays for their respective teams, and we have to say the same thing about Austin Eckler. In this particular game, 3 for 54. 3 for 54, which is absolutely fantastic. We're so lucky to have Austin Eckler on this team. So great delivery by the receivers. Next up, speaking of praise, being given where it's due, Trey Pipkins. This is the best picture I could find of him in the game. Right there on the side. Trey Pipkins, number 79, that man right there. Is he starting to click? Is he clicking? Right? Is he clicking? Storm Norton was out in this game, our right tackle. So step in, Trey Pipkins, our backup swing. It feels like Trey Pipkins was ready to step up again. The narrative behind Trey Pipkins for the longest time has been, oh, man, we got to get him off this roster. He's a liability to the health of my quarterback. But the last couple of times he's been called upon, he's been looking absolutely fantastic. So the narrative is starting to shift around him. You know what? And bravo to Trey Pipkins, man. Defeating the odds. Great development this season. I'm starting to feel better about him as a backup tackle on this team. He did a great job on Sunday. So 79's in the chat, man. Like, we don't get to say that very often, but he went in there and he held his own. And I'm very proud of him for protecting our potential MVP candidate in Justin Herbert. Next up, Derwin the Demon. Derwin the Demon. Derwin. Derwin looked fantastic. Derwin James returning to this game was huge. It really showed Chargers fans, reminded Chargers fans how vital he is to this squad. He was all over the field. He almost had a pair of picks in this game. They were both ultimately dropped, but he was in the area. He made a play. I think one of them was on third down. That's huge. That's big. Derwin, welcome back. This secondary as a whole looked a lot better with his return as well. I don't think you can single out any other player other than Derwin James as the most vital player on the defense. When James is on the field, everything changes. What you can do changes. Your disguises change. We saw Derwin blitzing a couple of times this game, in coverage, in the box, on the outside. He was everywhere. And when you pair him up with a head coach like Brandon Staley, good things happen. And having him back really reminded me that this defense, needs help. But when Derwin's on there, we got a good a shot as anybody to generate some turnovers and hold down the fort. So Derwin, welcome back. Hopefully he stays healthy throughout, our next game and hopefully into the playoffs as well. Next up, sharp on third down. You guys remember that play with Nasir Adderley? It was kind of a reverse play by the Broncos. Nasir was not fooled. He went in there and absolutely threw the heat. And then Drew Lock picked up the ball and Joey Bosa cleaned it up for a turnover on downs. Big props to 24, man. And big props to this team who has been sharp on third down. You guys remember versus Houston, we couldn't stop, a nosebleed, let alone a third down. And, despite giving up some chunk plays this week to Drew Lock, we shut him down when it mattered most. The Broncos went 3 for 11 on third down attempts this game. If that's not an improvement and not, proof in the pudding that Chargers superstars are a big impact when it comes to shutting down third down, it's this, man. It's this. This team looked absolutely night and day different than they did versus the Houston Texans. Bravo to Nasir. Bravo to a lot of these guys, man. I have to also say Jerry Tillery, who also had a couple of big plays this game, too. Third down, not as difficult as last week. Of course, it was Drew Lock. I have to keep reminding people that. But that does give me hope that this team has improved enough to go take on a Derek Carr next week. All right? Next up, shutting down the run. Yeah, baby. Justin Jones, what a game for him, man. He got back there quite a few times. Chargers looked fantastic versus two very, very talented running backs. Again, Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon. Those are two really, really good running backs in the league. Additionally, that guy on the right there, Joey Bosa, that guy looked amazing versus the run. I think that's a very underrated aspect of his game. He's really good versus the run. Tillery looked great as well in some plays. Jones was looking fantastic. I don't know. This was Denver's entire plan of attack, was it not? Chargers found a way to contain it. The run, I think we contained him under like 3.5 yards per carry, maybe 3.1 even. Very special day for the Chargers run defense. Bravo, bravo. Next up, we cannot talk about this game without talking about Andre Roberts, can we not? Super Saiyan special teams. Wow! Did this unit look fantastic. A unit that struggled so mightily in the early portions of the year. The Chargers go out there. They sign Dustin Hopkins. They get, Andre Roberts. That might be the best midseason signing we've seen in years. Keemon Hall, we have to also remember, recovering that fumble kick return. That was really huge. He had the awareness. He went out there and grabbed it. But of course, the cherry on top, likely the play that put the game away, Andre Roberts returned for a score. That may have been a highlight for the season. When's the last time we've seen a return for a touchdown? Was it Desmond King in 2018 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers? Probably. Andre Roberts was a smash hit signing for this team, one that I hope they extend this offseason. I know he's a little bit older, but if we're really just asking him to be our return specialist, I'm totally fine with that. How long did Devin Hester play, right? That's what I'm saying. Next up, momentum. The Chargers accomplished something really big on Sunday that might get overlooked as well. They grabbed momentum early in this game. And momentum is something that you can take into the future, into next Sunday, right? We were flexed into Sunday Night Football. We've got the momentum from this game. And you know what? The Chargers going into a primetime game with momentum, that's really tough to stop. I would say in particular, it's tough to stop Justin Herbert in primetime when he's got the engine running. Is that you guys feel me? Like that's a really, really big thing that the Chargers accomplished in this game that I wanted to make sure was addressed in this video too. We grabbed the momentum we can take into next week, into prime time with Justin Herbert. Lastly, we won the right way. Win the right way. The Chargers had a field day on Denver. Of course, Denver was down a couple pieces. We have to acknowledge that. We were that team last week. But this is the way the Houston game was supposed to go. right? You go up several scores. You feel pretty comfortable going into the fourth quarter. That's the way it was supposed to be. Didn't turn out that way due to COVID and stuff like that. But this game, I don't know, it reinvigorates our excitement as fans for the team, I think, right? Because we sure do need our stars. That's become evident. We have to work on our depth. But our stars are back, and at the perfect timing. We're ready, baby. We're ready for the Vegas Raiders. So, I think that's going to do it, guys. To answer the question, my own question that I put at the top of the video, who do I want to face in the postseason if we do make it to the playoffs? My personal answer is going to be the Chiefs, right? I'm ready for a rematch. One that I know that we can take. I just would love to wipe that smirk grin off of Patrick Mahomes' little smug face, right? Little smug face. So that's my answer for that. So my bottom line in this game, this was a massively, massively important game to win. But it was also important to win this game the right way. Win it the way that we did. The momentum going into next week is vital. The Chargers are hot right now, and we're going to need it against the Raiders, who just took down the Colts. I have to remind you guys that. That was a tough game for the Raiders to win, and they found a way to do it. But I do think we got this. This week proved to me that we have all the right pieces all over this roster. We just need to hope there's no complications and that they're all available going into Week 18. A stomping is what this team needed. We got it. Playoff scenarios also fell where they needed to for the Chargers to put their fate in their own hands next week. I think it's time the Chargers make a statement that we are the team to worry about in the AFC West. I believe they can do it. And again, a lot of it, even though it was kind of a blowout, is because of this game. The Chargers proved to me that they are capable of doing so because they won this game the right way. All right? Well, guys, I think that's going to do it for me today, guys. Enjoy Victory Monday, the victory week. Get excited and just, I don't know, embrace the hype leading up to Sunday. This is perhaps the biggest Chargers-Raiders game that we've seen in decades, literally decades. And honestly, it's one that I think I want to embrace the hype with. There's going to be a lot of people like, oh, I don't know, I'm worried about the game. I'm worried about the game, too. I don't think there's anybody that's not worried about the game. But there's also so much hope behind Justin Herbert and this Chargers roster that I think the Chargers have a great shot at making the postseason. So you guys let me know your hype in the comment section below, too. Well, guys, that's going to do it for me today. Hit us up with a like and sub on your way out if you did enjoy this content. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Raiders week, baby. We coming.